Well, it is the first ever DNQ podcast. Podcasts are like buttholes. Everyone has one, and they all stink. Hopefully, this one stinks a little bit less. I'm Bob Duato here with Bill Chester from Washington, D.C., and Jay-Z from upstate New York. And guys, what a season we have had so far in DNQ series. This series has really just exploded this year when we changed the tire, and the racing has been amazing.
The racing absolutely has been amazing. And part of that goes to Jeremy Burnett for prepping the track. I mean, running the top like we have and on the treaded tires. I mean, these carts are beating and banging. We couldn't script the races better than they've been this year.
I think it's the creativity of the series that's drawing more and more and more people out. Go back to the road course, or the intercourse, I should say. The intercourse was missing a bunch of big names, but had a bunch of new names showing up too, just to run it. And it was a great race. So between the track prep of the Burnetts, the creativity of the DNQ series as it is, I think it's only going to grow more and more over the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, and so far, the Cup Series has been number one. I mean, we've sent people home over the last couple of races, and that seems to be where Eric Riggins and Nick Stroop have done so well. It's almost them versus the field, and they've got pretty much everything set up right. It seems like at first we thought it was going to be Ronnie Shirk and Mike Rott, but these guys have pretty much been the best.
Yeah, they have, and it seems like they're only getting better the more time that they get on these tires. But like you talked about how good the competition is this year and how good those guys in particular have been running. But I'm looking at the all-time wins list here. And Timmy Nye, who hasn't run in years, is still at the top with 11 wins. And Jason Denny, who hasn't competed at all this year, I don't think if he has, I don't remember it, only 10 wins still. So, like, they've got a long way to go to beat really the best of the best that have run DNQ.
Yeah, but Riggins and Stroop, both of them are putting on a show. This might be the second coming. You know what I mean? You had your Pettys, you had your Earnhardts, they kind of die out. Then you had your Gordons and your Johnsons come up through. I hate to make a big comparison, maybe putting too much pressure on them, but maybe a Stroop and a Riggins, they're the next to usurp Timmy Nye as the All-Stars of the DNQ series.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've slowly become the face of the Cup Series right now. And Riggins, we took a tire sample after that last race in the Cup Series. It came back from the lab. They said, hey, it's got Simple Green on it, but it's not enough to throw them out over. But, I mean, you got to watch what you're putting on the tire. And that was definitely something. That was the first sample we set out. It cost us $100 to send a tire sample out, but it was definitely worth sending it out to see what they had on the tire. But I was fairly impressed with the fact that the lab could say, hey, there's Simple Green on this tire, and we know it.
Yeah, and what makes me even happier is the winner was clean. Like, he legit flat out beat everybody, and if there was somebody cheating, it proved to the rest of the field that you can and will still win on a legal tire, and we are going to check him. So if he was illegal, like, we were going to throw him out. So that really makes me happy that everybody is still playing by the rules. I think we've made that clear enough, especially with the engines. Like, you're not going to screw with the engine and get away with it. And you're not going to put a second driver in and get away with it. Like, we're going to call you out. We're going to throw you out. And Simple Green, like, you can't throw somebody out for that. Like, I've cleaned my tires hundreds of times with Simple Green and water. Like, that's just how you got to do it. Especially since, DNQ's brought this Hoosier treaded tire where you can run it multiple times and not have to fool with it. Like, that's just how you clean them. Like, so, I mean, good on him.
Yeah, I agree. If someone was cheating, they're doing a really shitty job of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're still getting their ass handed to them by Riggins. And I think the test, low key, sends a message out there saying, look, if you guys try to do something stupid, it will show up in the test. Don't screw around. So I think it's good no one got thrown out. I also think it's good they found a little something in the tire just to kind of put the message out there to people in the pit area. The racing's good. Don't be the asshole that screws it up for everybody. And let's have fun when we're out there racing.
Yeah, exactly. And when they start rolling the tires in the Simple Green is when we're going to have a problem, because that will show up enough for them to throw you out. So,
someone's going to try it. They are.
The rumors that come through here all the time are ridiculous. They're like,
Nah,
oh,
man.
blah 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 blah. This guy's got this going on, and some of them have merit to that. But I mean, some of the rumors are true, I guess, or they see it and they know it and they come tell me. But it's like, dude, sometimes, okay, maybe they are. Maybe it's not enough. And I'm just glad we have something to actually back it. It's like when somebody tells you my engine's completely legal and then you pull it out and you look at the head and it's like 20 or 100 thou cut. It's like, come on, dude. Joining us right now is Eric Riggins. You got us, Eric?
Yeah, I got you guys.
All right, cool. This is the first time we're doing this, so we are really trying to keep it flowing very well. But thanks for joining us. We're just talking about your tire test coming back with a little bit of simple green, but not enough to throw you out. And so far, you and Stroop have become the face of the DNQ series. What's it been like racing?
The face. That's not putting a target on her back any more than it already is. No, I mean, I tell you, every time I talk to you, man, it's been a blast. We're really having fun with it, and it's, really been a low budget class that works for the working man that's got a wife who, screams at you for every penny you spend. So we've been able to have fun and have fun at a good cost. That's been another plus.
Yeah, Eric Chester here. We talked before the race, before the intercourse, and you tested the night before and were not happy at all with your cart. Like, legit came back with a whole different cart that you didn't test with at all. And then you went out there and absolutely stomped everybody in the ground. But one thing I want to bring up, you lost a left rear.
Man, we have to talk about this.
What happened? Who did you fire anybody? I mean, did the checklist not make it? Are there one too many bush lights? What happened?
Well, we definitely discussed it on our Tuesday morning meeting the next day. No, I mean, I got a lot of really good help, because I like to dive into the Trulies, and so they keep me straight most of the time. But from what I gather, it was a wheel that I had powder coated, to look nice, and I think all the different side loads you get at the intercourse that you don't normally get in the oval, I think it just worked its way loose, because, I mean, it lasted 20 laps. If it was loose when it went on, I don't think it would have made it that long. So it was just kind of a deal with the attrition of the rights and lefts, puts a different load on them, and, having fresh powder coat doesn't help. So it is what it is. Nobody got fired over that one, but they definitely got the stern point to them at the conference table on Tuesday morning, though.
Well, you came back and won the next race in the night, so I guess that makes everything a little bit better.
It did. I mean, I was mad. I was cussing up a storm, and I threw my helm, and I was pissed. Because, my Pro Cup, I was, I'd missed a couple races, so I really needed the double points, and I really needed to win a race. And that one, right in that moment, to, get into the points battle, even though I, missed a race. And then having a DNF really killed my chances there. So that kind of threw that out of the window, and it pissed me off enough. I guess I went out there and drove hard enough to be good on the road course, which, generally I wasn't before. So I guess it helped me in a way.
All right. Eric, Jay-Z here. Good to be talking to you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Your name's getting a little cachet in the series, right? You got a little swagger walking around the pits. Has Truly reached out to you regarding formal sponsorship yet? I think that's the question a lot of listeners want to know.
They have been flirting with me hard on Twitter, although I have not gotten any formal reaching out. They're liking my tweets.
What about reaching around?
I wouldn't mind that either. Hey, I'm all about it either way. Anyway you can get it, But we just haven't come to an agreement yet. It's not. I'm not ruling it out. We're working on it. In a roundabout way, I guess you could say, a reach around way.
It's business stuff. All the agents got to handle it. You got people to handle it.
Yeah. So I try not to worry about that stuff too much. I definitely love the beverage. So I do worry about that, but the rest of it, I know it'll work its way out.
Fantastic.
Yeah, what's it? So DNQ this year, you kind of really started coming out to run it, and it seems like you guys have been having a blast. What is so different about this than racing everywhere else?
Yeah, I ran, DNQ races here and there, and just solely the amount of preparation that it took before this year to run a race, when you only have prep classes as an option. I have to get takeoffs from here and there, and then you got to spend days at a time goat peeing them in advance and prepping, and you got to have multiple sets. And it was really just, it took a lot out of me. I don't have a whole lot of stuff, and it just wasn't as fun. And then this year when the treads come out, I was like, oh, that's going to be something that's going to work, especially with the no prep rule and all that. So that really helps out people who love the racing side of it, but really don't care for the prepping side of it. Because, if you've seen the real go-kart racers, their trailers, they've got, 30, 40 sets of tires, and you just can't compete with that, running out of back can now, where the playing field is more level, and you're working on the mechanics more than you're working on your tires. So I think that's what really lit us up and made it more fun. You're sliding around a bunch because we got a ton of stagger. And with the treads, you've seen a new dynamic, being able to race like a race car more so than a go-kart, the way we're running the top and throwing slide jobs, stuff like that. So I think that's just something that's really cool. It's really new, really fresh. And so I'm really having a blast with it.
You don't get your wife yelling at you either how the house smells.
God. No, it contaminates everything within a half a mile radius, and you can't get rid of it.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Well, Eric, you are without a doubt a real go-kart racer, and you are quickly becoming, one of the most famous go-kart racers in America. But the question that's really been burning with me is, what have you done with that golden Ashley?
Oh, I probably shouldn't talk about that.
I mean, we hear these stories. We hear these stories of how you get your money after you win the King's Royal or something like that, or what you're going to do with the Golden Driller. But this is a golden Ashley. This is far and away above any of that stuff. Have you had a safe made for it yet?
It is front and center in the trophy case up in the lobby at my headquarters. So I've got it displayed really nicely, and the little Hoosier band around her arm. It looks really great. It's something nice to walk into every morning. When we're getting the day started.
It's a major award. It's like the Christmas story. You put the woman's leg out in front of the house.
Yeah, that one goes straight to the top. So that was definitely probably the biggest win.
Throw some pictures up on the DNQ Facebook and Twitters for us. We'd love to see it.
I'll have to do that. I will do that.
Speaking of the Burnett's, they do a great job with Millbridge, and they prep the track 3-4 different ways. We got they're doing intercourse for us. They have high side night. They have a traditional way they prep the track where the bottom's the fastest. Do you, as a racer, appreciate the different layouts they put together for us, or are you the type that you'd say, hey, you know what, I wish we'd run a more traditional layout more often?
Oh, I absolutely applaud Jeremy and Eddie too. I mean, they've listened to every feedback we've had. Even on the traditional nights, we've gone to where they're wetting the bottom to where the track widens out more for us with the treads. So I definitely like that. Millbridge has went above and beyond to give us a better product on the track, and I think it really showed, with the racing. I think everybody's having a blast this year, and I can't say enough about how good the track has been everywhere. Every time we've been there, whether it be the intercourse, which I really, really dreaded. I really thought like, wow, this is way better than I could have ever thought. To every race we've been to, it's been phenomenal. So, the traditional prep and the high, I'm always favoring the high side. But we've got to where the traditional nights you can run, kind of anywhere on the track. So that's definitely been cool.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of viewers probably don't realize about you. You've got a pretty big background in racing in general. I mean, why don't you tell our listeners, where'd you start? How did you get here? And how did you ultimately end up in the highest series, DNQ?
Well, I am, as a lot of people know me, as a lifetime go-karter from back in the day, back when go-karting was very predominant.
How'd you get started?
I ran those. I started in go-karts when I was 6. A good family friend of mine actually bought me my first go-kart and started the whole racing deal, and we just kind of took off from there. I ran go-karts locally for years, and then I ran nationally for a lot of years, up until I was about 14 or 15, and then
and was that
the
same fella, or was it a family deal at that point?
We maintained, we were a family team from, he bought us that kart, but he was part of our family. I mean,
Gotcha.
We were a family team from, beginning to end. We did ride for a lot of people here, in between, but we always, maintained that, it was us, doing it. We had different tire guys at different points. We rode different chassis at different points, but it was something that me and my dad, really grew and, were able to go anywhere and be fast. And so that was something to be proud of, especially nowadays. You can't go out there and go race without the guy, doing your stuff, or you're just wasting your time, So then, I got a full-size sprint car when I was 14. They kind of threw me to the wolves there.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. All right, see this rate pedal, that's all you need.
It was a hell of a jump for me, going straight from a go-kart to that.
What,
So there was
305
quite an
or
adjustment there.
360?
We went straight to 360.
Oh, goodness.
With the wing on top or no?
Yeah, with the wing, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I got one practice day, and then there was a big race at Carolina, and Carolina's like 20 minutes from my house. And we showed up, and there's 30-something cars, and I'm standing there. I'm like, good God, I've never been on the track with another car. And they basically threw me out there to the wolves. But,
How'd you do?
once I ended up 10th, I will say that.
Wow.
I got a top
All right.
10 out of it.
That's
That was
good,
the night
man.
Tony Stewart was there. A lot of big guys were there and running. And, I was
Dang.
intimidated out of my mind. But once you get on the track, it's a little different. You can actually race. But I wasn't quite the prodigy that some of them are when they hop in. But I mean, all things considered, I feel like it was a good debut, and definitely built on that for years to come. I still race sprint cars, just not as much. I've slowed down since I got married, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because racing can take over your life, and you really got to have something else too to be happy all the time, because it does turn out to be a second full-time job, trying to chase it up and down the road. So I've slowed down a lot, but it's made it more fun, and I feel like I'm better for it. When I do show up, I'm one of the ones to beat almost anywhere I go. So
It's a good place to be.
Fast and philosophical.
So one last question for you, Eric. This back to DNQ, the competition in there has gotten pretty big in the Cup Series. We saw Jimmy Allen and Nick Stroop get into it last race, and he almost got his ass beat by Nick's dad. But Big Mike, I think, is his name. But So what is
Big
it?
Mike.
First question is how has the competition been racing with all these guys? Seem like it's a really good group of guys. And my final question is, who is the biggest pain in the ass to race around? Who's the guy you get around? You're like, oh my God, this guy again.
Daniel Ridenhour doesn't race anymore. Just let you know.
God, I will agree with you on that one. I can attest to that. I have ran with him in actual different series of go-karts. And yeah, that is one you got to be proud of when you get back. No, but the competition as a whole has been good. You will, I mean, as you saw in the last race, we had a little heat boiling over. You know, me and Nick raced together, and we've been really fast. So I can understand some people are, you know, if they're at your back bumper and they have a chance, they're going to be more apt to give it to you. You know, all things considered, but no, the competition's been good. I get along with everybody up there for the most part. Pain in the ass to pass. It would have been, well, I guess Nigel's not really running with it anymore, but Nigel Standish, if you pass him, that's something to be proud of. Because he'll hook a left on you as soon as he sees that nose. He's going to full block mode. But that's one when you get by, you get a little shrug to yourself, and you're like, okay, all right, I'm good now. Now you work on the next one.
So we were pretty right on when we named him the Pistol.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Eric, we want to thank you for joining us tonight, and good luck the rest of the season. We'll definitely be here commentating and talking crap about you the whole time.
Hey, I love it. That's what makes it so fun is the level of professionalism everywhere except for the commentary and the broadcast. And that's what it is.
Well, thanks for joining us, Eric.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right, thanks, man.
Eric Riggins joining us today, and that's always good to talk to somebody who's really good at what they do, and he's got a level head on his shoulders, and one of the best that's in the Cup Series right now by far.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely proved that he's got what it takes to get it done, not only on the oval, but on the road course as well. I mean, he's definitely impressed and been coming up quick. He's going to be one to watch for the rest of the year, I think.
I mean, he's just driving out of everyone's life. It's hardly even close in some of the races as of late. He's just got a arm and a leg above everyone else, and people gotta work on their shit, you know.
Yeah, I mean, knowing that he comes from, you know, small roots and he's run a family deal for the rest of for most of his career. I mean, it definitely teaches you the value of a dollar and how to take care of your equipment and get the most out of it. So. And then, you know, being thrown into a sprint car from a go-kart, a 360 wing car right away. I mean, yeah, sink or swim, and he definitely can swim. So, I mean, a little bit of left and right ain't going to scare him. That's for sure.
No, not at all.
No, absolutely not. Well, our next race will be August 17th, coming up in a couple days. It is the Tar Heel Racing Supplies night for the DNQ Karting Series, and our last race was the intercourse, as we covered, which the name came from you, Bill. It's an intermediate road course when it comes to go-karting. So a lot of people got weirded out by the word intercourse. So we kind of changed it to road course, but that's how it got its name to begin with. I mean, it is what it is, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's a play on words. So,
yeah, I mean, some people.
The whole deal's a joke. So either you're gonna get it or you're not gonna get it. So.
I mean,
much like intercourse.
Yeah.
Professional us is like, hey, look, okay, you know, we gotta keep it little PC, but like, to be honest with you, it's just a play on words. I mean, the Bellhead corner. That should tell you something right there. All right,
I mean, some people combine road course and oval. We combine intermediate and road course.
Exactly my point. So in the DNQ ARCA series last race, Scott Heath took the win. We had a little younger guy named Mike Bumgarner come in. They beat each other up, did a great job though. But ARCA series, kind of a mess. I mean, when you really think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, Bumgardner really surprised. I mean, and that wasn't the only class that he ran. He was strong all night in all the classes that he ran, and I mean, somebody new, not only taking on DNQ as a whole, but taking on probably the hardest track that we race on, was really impressive. And Scott Heath, I mean that cart was dominant. So I mean,
Yeah.
that was like, I mean, take any one of your no driving, 20th place on back and throw them in Gibbs equipment and they run good. I mean, that's the equivalent of what happened.
Yeah, Scott Heath apparently is some guy that's just ran all over the country. But hey, look, they played the game. Ronnie Carroll needed a sub driver. He's never run DNQ. It's just how it works. You play the game, and that's some people were upset about that, but it is what it is.
I mean, Juan Pablo Montoya and Kimi Räikkönen were rookies in NASCAR at some point. I mean, like same thing.
Yeah, one driver that we've seen actually run pretty decent is Hunter Weaver, and he's done a lot of stuff. He's going to call in here in a minute, but here he is right now. Joining us is Hunter Weaver. Hunter, welcome. Can you hear us?
I can hear you great.
All right, sweet. We were just talking about this last race where Scott Heath came and cherry picked everybody and that he was new to DNQ, but so far this season, you've had a pretty decent season in DNQ. I mean, you're up there in the top 5 in points. You were running good at the last race and got shuffled towards the end of it. But I'll tell you what, like when Ronnie Carroll, Frank Kimmel can't run in this ARCA series anymore, it's going to be up to you, Randall Beck, and a couple other guys to win this championship next year. And so far, you've definitely impressed us on how you've run.
Yeah, it's actually been my first year actually running for a championship. I've never had the chance to be able to run for a championship before, and thanks to Ken Comrade owns the carts and everything. We formed the team late last year, and after the team that I was with, we won a few races together, and we parted ways about the middle of the way of last year, and we joined forces, and we've got a few wins. We just haven't been able to gain some momentum. We just had different things happen, just some dumb stuff go wrong, and then we ended up on the bad end of the stick the last race. With I was behind the second place cart, and he and the left rear tire come off his, and I had nowhere to go.
Seems to be a common issue.
Yeah, and it got the Nerf bar there bent it a little bit, and I think it might have got the spindle, but we come in, looked at it real quick, and I hopped right back on and gained 7 spots right there, and ended up a little bit better and salvaged something, but we should have ended up second or third in all reality. We had a really fast go-kart.
So
yeah, you guys were really strong.
So you do your own deal on Facebook. It's dirt karting. I forget what it's 24/7 dirt karting 24/7, where you cover legit go-kart racing. You cover the big series around the Southeast and everywhere, and then you start to cover some of our races, and that's where I kind of saw you doing your deal online, which you give us a lot of coverage. So I thank you for that. That's why you're on here right now with us for the first episode. But that seems to be your passion, and you know what, we got to say, like, we definitely look at that and go, hey, look, this guy's really passionate about what he does, and we really appreciate that as far as racing. So I figured it was great to get you on here to talk to you because you're always talking to other people.
Yeah, and I'm used to interviewing everybody else. I don't get that pleasure a lot of times, and I appreciate it. And we chose to run it because we have a lot of times I'm announcing a lot of other races, and I have a lot of things going on with that. So it kind of made more sense for us to just go that route and come run DNQ. And it don't cost a whole lot. It doesn't take a whole lot of our time. It's not real stressful. So we have a lot of good fun with it, and we got to running better the last couple of races just because that we just decided to take pressure off ourselves and just have fun with it basically, and we ended up starting to run better.
Well, it's definitely working for you, that's for sure. And running good is always more fun. But right now you're sitting 4th in ARCA Series points, but that's not really saying that much because 2nd, 3rd, and 4th is all within like 80 points of each other. I mean, that is less than one race. I mean, Randall Begg, Zach Camplionia, and you are all neck and neck. I mean, you guys have all been very competitive. Arguably, I think you are probably the best car out of that group. I mean, what's it going to take to keep that up for the rest of the year? And which one of those guys scares you the most?
I'm not really scared of anybody. First of all, I don't worry about that, and most of the time I'm faster than a lot of them. But we just have stupid things happen, and like the last race, we ended up right behind Randall, and we salvaged a little bit, but we were going to finish ahead of them and have a really good points night. But it just things happen, and sometimes it happen that's out of your control. But I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. We've started to figure out a few things and get our ducks in a row, and we've got a little bit more organized, and we're really looking forward to it. And I've been getting tires ready this week and just doing them on my own because Ken's on vacation this week for a couple of days. But cart and everything's ready to go, and we're really excited about it and looking to get back. And we're trying a few different things. We've got a little bit better just figuring out just different things and realizing we might be about maybe a tenth, but you can find a tenth just finding a little bit by little bit. But once you get down to the hundreds and thousands place, that's where it's really difficult to find speed.
Mm-hmm.
You've been strong, and like you said, you've run all over the Southeast and had some good runs and won a bunch of races. This ARCA series with the tires they run and the Predator engine package, do you think this is the class, a series thing, the rules package that will grow, bring more people to DNQ? Is that where you think you're going to find more people coming to run against you guys in this class, or do you think people are ready to maybe move to full-blown clones? I mean, where do you think the Predator class and the ARCA series is going?
It's hard to say, really. I've noticed, like, ever since the series started, there's been about the same amount of people running the races throughout the years. There've been 15, 20 go-karts coming by every race, but the thing that I've noticed the past couple of years is the different people that's come and gone in the series. Like, there's been a different champion, different people racing throughout the years. I think of John Kender's one of those guys. He was really successful in the 2 years that he run it, and then there was guys like Ronnie Shirk that are running clone stuff now, and they've moved to other classes, moved to the treaded clone classes, and moved to different avenues. It's hard to tell, really. Running the DNQ deal, there's a lot of different guys like Clint Mills and Tommy Balder and some of those guys that'll come and race with us that run big races, and they'll come and run because it's cheap and it's fun, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time to do it, and it's just a lot of fun. But it'll be hard to tell. I mean, who's going to run it next year? I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to be doing, if I'm going to run that, or if I'm going to stay in that, or I'm going to think about getting a cart and running a traded deal, which I'm definitely thinking about doing at some point. But we're just going to play it by ear, really.
It seems like that treaded class has taken off. It's like the racers are craving something different. You know what I mean? We've been running the same Maxxis pinks and blues all over for years and years and years. I know the Outlaw carts have been on the treaded tire for a little while, and DNQ took a big, bold step and started running them in their series. And it seems like it's taken off. I mean, the feedback we're getting from the other drivers is very, very positive. The feedback from what you've seen is very positive. I mean, I think it's going to grow. What do you think?
Oh, definitely. And I knew it was going to be big right out of the gate at the Miltona, and there was like 30-something go-karts out there, and everybody was all over the place. It was one of the wildest kart races I've ever seen. I've never seen that many go-karts going that many places before. I mean, like when I go like the Max Daddy, one of the biggest races of the year was this past week, and even though the field is a little bit more spread out in the traded class, that makes for really good racing too. And it's all competitive. It just depends on what you're able to do, what kind of knowledge you have of what to do with tires, carts, and having gearing and all that. It's really good. And I think the COVID's kind of played a little bit on the big stuff, just because not everybody's been able to run, or it's been a crazy year. I'll put it that way.
Well, Hunter, I think you've done such a great job so far this year, and all your coverage has been really good. So last question here. You've run this series quite a bit. Who is the biggest pain in the ass to race around when you're out there running?
Oh my God, I could name quite a few of them.
In ARCA series, it's easy, right?
Oh Jesus, that's a tough question there. The deal the last race, I just the person I was battling and where I was getting hit at, and and things like that, I was like, it's pointless. And I mean, I'm not even going to call a few names out, but if most of the time, if they're in that 10th place area, that's the area that I feel that we're capable of getting out of. We just need to get out of it. And we qualified really good the last race, and that's where we've been lacking on just running regular mill bridge and running all four corners there. And if we can just get out of that area and get up there in the top 5, we can race a little bit more. But I'm not one of those people that just going to sit there. I'm not going to be one of those people that
just
sit there and call people out.
Give me a name.
Who should we put a rear entry cam on next week?
If you want me to give you a name, oh man, the toughest one is I'm going to say Randall. He's been
You don't have to say he's a pain in the ass. Just he's the toughest one to pass, I guess is what I would say.
Well, both ways. But Randall, I remember there's been a couple of times throughout the year that we were battling for like something that's pointless for like 99th place back in there for $0 and I know I'm faster because I keep passing him coming up off the corner. I would pass him up off, and he would just dive across my nose underneath me. I'm like, well, you're holding both of us up. Come on, man. Yeah. I looked over at him under caution one day, and I asked him the question, and he just looked at me like he was just clueless, but it's whatever.
Sounds like he's been to the DNQ driving school.
Oh, my God. I mean, I've run, like, big races and run, big Predator races, like, with the series. And I've run a South Carolina Dirt Series race once or twice. And it's, it's a totally different caliber of competition when you come to DNQ. But, I mean, it's all fun. I enjoy it.
Well, we're hoping you get that all-star fan vote. If you find a vote bot online, I'm pretty sure that's what Broy's doing. So you still got time. It can happen.
I mean, I'm just planning to win the race Monday and try to get in the B main so I ain't got to do as much work. But I mean, we'll see what we can do. I mean, we'll try to. I definitely want to get on the podium for once and get a good finish and get some results. I mean, I definitely want to win, but even just getting podium, I'll be definitely happy with that. And it'll be all right. We just got to just work our way up through there and just keep digging. It's all you can do.
If you take home the hardware, where's the race winner going in Shelby to get yourself a tall, cold, frosty boy?
I'll probably venture over to the Lafayette Street Grill and Pub. It's a little place up downtown Shelby, and they have on Wednesday nights they have $1 natural, $2 natural light cans, and on a Wednesday night,
there you go.
All right,
50 cent chicken wings. You can't beat that.
I might be there with you.
If you run ARCA, you got to eat some chicken wings.
Yeah, and you know what? If we suck, we'll go anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we run 14th, I'll still go, but it's whatever. But and the funny thing is, the people that run it, they're in racing too. They run the drag strip.
Oh, that's
perfect.
awesome.
All right.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Hunter. We appreciate your time, and good luck the rest of the season. Glad we got to talk to you.
I appreciate it. See you guys Monday.
See you,
All
Hunter.
right. See you, Hunter.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That is a dude that is passionate about racing no matter what. I mean, like he knows his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, driving that double, I have 100% faith he knows the best place to get 50-cent chicken wings and $2 beer. And I will be there right along his side and talk as much shit as I have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he does, dude. He does a really good job with, his podcast. Well, I wouldn't say podcast, but his live broadcast. A lot of people watch those, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You can check them out. I've watched a couple of them myself, and it takes people like him to push a series forward and push a sport forward and advocate for it and keep people interested. Because I mean, we've seen it before. You go through the Facebook comments every time we ask about, what do you guys think about a rule change? And you got 15,000 internet experts telling you, what the rule change should be. It's easy to fracture a sport, but guys like Hunter bring people together, celebrate the sport, and they're good people to have around.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got a great perspective on sort of both sides of the fence, the DNQ side and then the suit and tie, white collar side, I should say. Like, you watch his broadcasts and everything is very professional and everybody's very by the book and except the timeline, so you watch that and you see the race and then you wait around or whatever and everybody's screwing around and get some lineups, then call the next three classes, still waiting. Okay, everybody's on the grid, and then they put them out. Like that, I think is one area that just really shows where DNQ shines. Like we don't take that crap. We're on time every night, and Jeremy and Ashley don't take that either. I mean, that's why we can run a whole night in 3 hours.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to be there all night. Go-kart racing is a mess across the country. And that's where we came in and was like, you don't need to do all this stuff. The drivers are getting taken advantage of. I'm not saying all the racetracks do it, but there's a lot of times that these racers get taken advantage of, paying for parking. I mean, hey, look, every racetrack's got to make their money. I understand that. But DNQ, we try to do budget racing for people because that's how I wanted a series to be when I first started. It's like, hey, it would be cool if a series would do this for the racers or do that. And I think it's kind of a way to give back to some of the guys.
Yeah, I mean, and it shows too. Like the infield and the pits are packed every single time because people, like exactly like Eric Riggins said, you don't have to spend your whole life preparing for the next race. Like you can still have a life, and I'm sure his wife is very happy about that. But you can run the same set of tires. You don't have to spend all week prepping because it's illegal. Like, go ahead, you can spend some time prepping and doing all that stuff, and we're going to throw you out for it. So, like, don't be an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the fines are so high. So that is the Pink Magic ARCA series. I want to thank Jamie Knopf for his sponsorship this year. Pink Magic Tire Prep. Check them out on Facebook. If you need any prep for the ARCA series, they are the people to check out. Carroll Tractor and Trailer Repair Bush series. Daniel Armstrong continues his full-blown dominance, ass-kicking of this series again. I mean, he's a big name, Jay-Z. We talked about him a lot, but he's the top dog in Bush.
Yeah, this season seems to have this penchant for people running away with it. Now, Daniel Armstrong's a big name. If you followed any type of the big touring series in the Southeast, you've seen his name in the top 5. You've seen him holding the big check. So he's a guy to shoot for. But the fact that people like Bobby Showalter, John Olivero, Caleb Clenard are even close to him is a big compliment to their skill set and how good they're getting as well, because Daniel's just one of the best around that shows up at the track every week.
Yeah, I mean, but he's leading the points, but Robert Showalter's not that far behind. I mean, he's within one race of him. Like, all it takes is Daniel Armstrong to get the Rona, and he's not leading the points anymore.
He had better success getting to that Fauci left-hand turn than everybody else. He's dodging the virus.
That is the Carroll Tractor and Trailer Repair Bush series. Thank you for Ronnie Carroll, who is leading ARCA points. But thanks for your sponsorship there. If you want to sponsor this podcast, we're going to do one once a month. So contact us. We'll be cheap. We'll mention your stuff online, and then maybe you'll get some followers. Next was the Filthy Mechanic Clothing Pro Cup Series. Best race probably all night. Ryan Ayers came out of nowhere and was going to beat Eric Riggins regardless, but he did such a good job in that race, and I pretty much couldn't believe that he beat him.
Yeah, it really – luck was on his side that night because Eric Riggins actually got past him and was, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 car lengths ahead with that 5-to-go caution. And then that 5-to-go caution reset to the previous lap. So Ryan Ayers regained the lead and never looked back again. I mean, I don't know if Riggins' air pressure went down or what happened, but I mean, he was able to hold him off. I mean, that was seriously impressive because Riggins was so strong.
It's a different layout, turning left, turning right. They're pulling more G's. Maybe he's just BAC was a little too high before he got in the cart, and he just got worn out by the end of the race. You never know. It is DNQ, but it was a solid win for sure.
Yeah, we know that 71 machine is strong too. I mean, we've seen it up front everywhere we go. I mean, the same story as the 192 car.
Yeah, that Zach Stroop had a good night. Jay Zarapata had a good night. Finney, a good night. Scott Zarowski, not a good night for double points. His gear blew up, or his hub blew up there. And Showalter failed RPM, so that kind of hurt him too. But this series still, I mean, very, very, very tight in the points here, in the point standings. I mean, you got to go back to probably about 10th place for a driver that's out one race from the leader. So very competitive.
Yeah, very competitive, and that's just an attest to the rule book in that class. I mean, you got the Hoosier tires on there and the Predator engines. I mean, that's just automatically going to keep everybody packed up and tight. But the racers there are just so competitive. The equipment is so even. I don't want to say it's luck. It's not luck. It's definitely skill, but it's the way the racetrack is. I mean, it's very easy for somebody to get off a little bit and then somebody else just to creep up and steal that win.
Yeah, top six are separated by 100 points, I think. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned before, Bill. It's almost one race. It's a difference between sixth place and first place in the points standings right now. DNQ does a good job. People keep showing up to the races, and that low cost, affordable package of the treads and the Predators keeps bringing all the boys to the yard. So it's a good thing. I'm looking forward to Pro Cup the rest of the season.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in that series. Everything's really close. So see if Showalter can get back on that horse and win a championship. Dash series, Mike Melton, Mike Contarino pretty much beating everybody up. Mike Melton's got like a group of friends. He's got like 6 or 7 guys, and they all put the same setup in their stuff. And then he says he doesn't tinker with it later on. But, I mean, he's been winning all the races so far. Contarino did a good job. I thought he was going to at least get a run, but he ran into the barriers there towards the end of it.
I mean, Mike Melton hasn't just been doing a good job. He's been dominating. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I mean, he's absolutely killed it. He made everybody look stupid on that road course. I mean, since Joey Gase hasn't been able to make it, I mean, he's really picked up the slack, and he's the one to beat for sure.
He must have something figured out. I know with these small tires all the way around, maybe there's no stagger. So, and the right front small, the right rear small. So maybe these big cross numbers that you would normally run aren't in the go-karts anymore. And Melton's just one of the first to really learn and mess around with a more neutral setup. And like I said, with the absence of Mr. Gase, he's been putting a hurting on everybody.
There's no telling what kind of magic setups him and his trucker buddies come up with, when they park the trucks. So, I mean,
they
would
pop
imagine
4 stacker twos and just sit there and brainstorm,
Yeah.
The surprise finish of the night was Quentin Haley, by far. I mean, he finished third, and I'm telling you, he's probably spotting everybody 30 pounds. I mean, he did a great job. And I talked to a couple of the guys that are heavier. They wanted a gear rule for more gear because they have so much weight. And I'm all for it. I mean, I'm all for giving them at least 2 more rear teeth to mess around with. But Quentin Haley, by far, was the most surprising finish in that race.
You would have thought he won the race by the celebration down there in Victory Lane. I mean, he deserved every bit of it. It was a hard-fought third place, and to see. I mean, he's a big boy. That's a lot of man to haul around that road course and change directions. But good on him. I mean, he nailed it.
Big Red, I think he's going to be a fan favorite if he keeps showing up here for a few more weeks. Like you said, Billy, guys beaming ear to ear with that third place finish. And it's good to have a man's man, an every man. You know what I mean? A Busch Light drinking, chicken wing eating guy finishing on the podium there. Maybe it'll bring some more people out to the races.
Yeah, and Justin, I don't know what the relation is there, maybe brother or something like that. But I mean, it's cool to have somebody that, when they're watching somebody else race and then they come watch them race and they have a good night. I mean, that's by far one of the best things to have in there. But Ghostface Brewing, and that's Dash Series unsponsored, whatever. If you want to sponsor it next year, go to the website. The Ghostface Brewing Cup Series. We talked to Eric Riggins earlier, but the best finish that I saw the night was Robert Showalter. Finished second, was running him down, passed him, and that 5-to-go caution came out. And he's back. I think he's back.
I think he is. I mean, he really got his stuff turned around. He struggled there for the last couple of weeks, like you said. But, I mean, talking to him in the pits before the race, he was beside himself and went home and really worked on his stuff and just forgot everything that he thought he knew and just thought about what was wrong with the go-kart and worked on it. And it really seemed to pay off for him. I mean, granted, that was the road course. And we know the oval's a completely different animal, especially if we run the top and not the bottom. But I think it seemed to me like he has a whole new mindset.
He does. It's sometimes you got to get kicked in your teeth and knocked down in the dirt to stand back up. And he's getting there. The one person I thought that might finish a little bit better than they did was Ryan Richmond. I expected a little bit more from him, being a veteran, calling his name a lot for these races, and I was hoping he'd do a little bit more on the intermediate road course here. So I'm surprised he finished back there a little bit.
Some people got it and some people don't, and he don't. Yeah, I mean, we see it in some of the bigger, or I shouldn't say bigger, some of the other series that are televised every now and then, where some guys that are hell on wheels on the oval just don't have it with the road course. I mean, Eric Almirola comes to mind, especially. Like, you can watch him lead 40 laps on an oval, and then we go to any road course and he can't find his ass with either hand. So, I mean, Ryan Richmond might just be that type.
Yeah. So this series, Nick Stroops won 2 in a row, or he had won 2 in a row up until the last race where Eric Riggins won it. But it's been across the board. Ronnie Shirk won a race. Jason Denny won a race. Mike Rott won a race. I mean, it's been a pretty, even field. And the guy who's in second place of points, LJ McCleary, 66 back. I think he's going to have to step his game up if he wants to win this championship. He hasn't run in the top 5 consistently enough.
Yeah, he really hasn't been the one to talk about since we've gotten away from the big motor, honestly. I mean, we know that he's been around and he knows Millbridge and he knows go-karting, he knows how to get it done. But he's just, I don't know if it's like the power where his setups really worked with the big power where he could slide the tires a little bit. And he just hasn't quite gotten a hold of it, or if he's got some other distractions. I mean, we've seen guys slump through the middle part of their career. I mean, maybe that's happening with him. It's hard to say, but he's definitely fallen behind.
It might be part of that changing of the guard we touched on a little bit earlier in the podcast, where he's the old school racer that used to show up and he'd be challenging Timmy Nye for wins all the time. I remember he was having a lot of success running that Russ Wheeler throwback bodywork with the big ass splitter he ran on the front nose. And
Yeah.
just since he's gone back to a more subtle setup, again with these low power engines, like you said, Bill. He's just struggling to find, 2-3 tenths, not a ton, but he should be fighting for P1 and P2 instead of, P4, P5.
Yeah, CJ Winslow had a really good run, finished 4th. The inverts definitely helped him. Jason Asbury, who blew up during the race, got the pole, rolled to 6, and started him towards the front. But he's somebody who's been starting to figure some stuff out, been running a little bit better. I mean, he was running top 5 when he got flipped the weekend before, but I mean, for somebody to watch, it's between Jimmy Allen Jr., who's got that new Reaper deal, which whatever, and CJ Winslow, I think, are the 2 guys that we need to pay attention to in this series going forward.
Yeah, I really didn't expect much from Jimmy Allen, but he surprised the heck out of me. I mean, he ran really good. Maybe that's all he needed. I mean, we saw the Wood brothers run like shit for so many years. I mean, they had Elliott Sadler driving it. That was probably part of their problem, but they switched to Penske stuff and all of a sudden they're good. I mean, maybe it's the same story for Jimmy Allen. He just needed an upgrade in equipment. And he really knew what he was doing all along.
Yeah, he might be the brains and not the cash behind the operation. You know what I mean? Where he can drive. You know what I mean? He could set up a go-kart, but he just didn't have the right equipment. Managed to get in lockstep and join this Reaper Racing team, and he's been showing his best stuff lately. So I think he's a contender for the championship before the season's over.
I think the real secret in the Reaper deal is probably John Kinder. He's really good. He's raced his whole life, and he's always there telling these guys what to do, whether it's Ronnie, Mike, and now Jimmy. He's done such a good job with making sure that these guys aren't doing something stupid. baseline stuff. He won an ARCA championship. He got hurt in a wreck, and that's why he doesn't race anymore. But he does a really good job helping those guys out.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just need that. The Father Time standing around just calling you an idiot. You know, I mean, we all have those people in our lives, you know, where you're about to do something stupid and they don't even have to tell you. They just have to look at you. And you're like,
I remember starting pole in a heat race, running out of gas before the first lap was over and coasting into the scales. And Wayne Wispelaar of Coyote Motorsports comes over, takes off my gas cap, looks in there, slaps me beside the helmet, and goes, "Did you wake up effing stupid today?" And walks away. Best thing ever. Built a lot of character that day.
All right, well, that's all the DNQ news we have for right now. Look forward to the race coming up on the 17th, and we'll see what comes from that, and we'll do another episode of this next month. But let's talk about some real racing news, and I wanted to talk about this SRX series. They've named a couple names in the drivers, and I saw pictures of the cars online. So it seems like, from my standpoint, that they're going to run like a TA1 car, which is probably the most badass race car that you could ever build. I just saw these guys race at Road America. These things are awesome. They got a ton of horsepower, ton of downforce, and I think the racing is going to be amazing.
I mean, it really looks cool. Some of the names that they've thrown out, we saw Bobby Labonte, Tony Kanaan was in it. Paul Tracy, who I'm surprised can fit in one of those fucking things still. Like, the cars are really badass, and the drivers definitely have some history. It'll be interesting to see if they still got it.
I think the older drivers, like a Bobby Labonte maybe, will have some great success. It's going to remind me of the old IROC series. These cars are, even though they're tube chassis, right? They're a little on the heavier side. They got big power, big brakes, and they're going to move around. They're going to squirm. So Paul Tracy's run a little Trans Am in the recent past, so he'll probably have some success. But I'm interested to see how guys like Tony Kanaan and maybe some of these other open wheel guys that'll come, see how they fare. I think it'll be interesting. I know I'll be drinking beers watching for sure.
Yeah, Bob, are the races during the day or at night? Or
I have zero idea. I think they announced that they were going to run at Stafford, which maybe Charles Lewandowski, who's a washed up driver,
North driver,
can drive in SRX. No, but I mean, it's a football.
Maybe we can get Paul, the crew chief, in. It would be like old times. Paul Wolf used to crew chief Charles Lewandowski.
Yeah, he finished 5th at his home track once. All right, I'm sorry, Carlos.
No.
But I think it's a pure strategy play from Tony and Ray's spot and whoever their investors are. If you get these older guys that are racing, first of all, they don't want to get hurt in a race car. So, but they still want to race. So this is like a perfect spot for like Jimmy Johnson to come in and run this race. I think like Landon Capital would be awesome in one of these cars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe get some young guys who don't have funding, who have run race cars before, and put them in it and see how they do. And then get like some guys like Jimmy Johnson, all these guys who are like, hey, look, I love it, but I don't like the grind of racing so much. So I just want to do like 6 races, and we'll go to Stafford. We'll go to these other cool racetracks and we'll race. I think it's got a lot of potential, but I mean, I don't know. From the business standpoint, you want to get these older guys who don't wreck race cars, because if you own all the cars, you don't want to kill stuff every week.
Right. And I think what really ups their potential is they don't have to race at tracks they own. They can go literally anywhere they want. So you can go to places like Stafford, where the weeds are growing up through the cracks, and you can get a really good race on surfaces that are completely destroyed. It would be awesome to have a race at Myrtle Beach. I mean, granted, I don't know if that place is going to be closed by the time that this racing series gets going, but like the South Bostons and the Hickories and stuff like that, like the Saturday night tracks that put on a great show every single night because they haven't been paved since 1985. Like, that's the places where these guys can go and put on a great race just because the tracks are so good.
Bro, I'm getting slightly aroused just thinking about big V8s pounding around O'Reilly Raceway Park again. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
the old IRP, dude. Like you said, it'll be awesome to showcase these drivers' talents. These guys are all established, successful, winning drivers in front of local crowds, at tracks where they'll have to use the brakes, you know what I mean? Have to use some talent to get around, and not just 14 hours in the wind tunnel the week before to make sure they got enough side force. So
Could you imagine if they run the night before the Brickyard at IRP?
I'd buy 2 12-packs just to make sure I can stay up through the whole thing. You know what I mean? It'd be amazing to watch. Amazing.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of potential there. I mean, if they do it right, there's a ton of potential there. And I don't know all the workings of it. I know they're going to have crew chiefs and they own the cars, and maybe Ray will crew chief, maybe Ray will drive. It's good to have competition in racing series. And I don't think it's going to take away from that other series, the other bigger series, but I think it's going to do nothing but add things. Like maybe they can work together. Hey, let's try this. Let's try that. Watching these guys maybe run at Eldora is gonna definitely be something to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that would be absolutely incredible, but I look at this as sort of like the XFL, and where they can still go to all the big cities and attract all of the big fan base. But I will say, like, going to the XFL games here in DC, watching the DC Defenders, that's the most fun I've had at a football game since I can possibly remember, because the expectations were so low. Everybody was so rowdy. Like the beer snake was absolutely incredible. Everybody was there just to have a good time and watch football. And I think this SRX is going to be the exact same thing. Everybody's there to party with their buddies. Oh, and there's a race going on with people that we know, and it's actually a good race.
That's the key, actually having it be a good race. And I think it will be. Tony's no dummy. Ray's no dummy. They know what they're doing. Yes, it's a business venture, but those are two guys that want to have a good show, have good racing. So I have all the confidence in the world it'll end up being awesome.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And in the Cup Series so far, it's been Hamlin and Harvick. So I look at both of these guys in the Cup Series right now. They're the two best They're the two best teams right now in Cup Series, but I also look at their crew chiefs. They might be the two best crew chiefs in the Cup Series as well. And I think what makes them the best is both their crew chiefs ran late models at some point. Rodney Childers and the other one, man, I'm starting to lose my freaking mind here. Gabe Hart. They both raced. And I think that's a big part of when you have a crew chief who's actually driven a race car and somebody who's just an engineer. I think it makes a huge difference. And I think that's what you're seeing right now.
It absolutely is. I mean, all of the best crew chiefs have been like that. I mean, look, we just talked about Ray Abraham. Perfect one. I mean, how many laps around Flemington do you think Ray Abraham has?
Yeah, tons.
Right. Like all the guys that can talk to their drivers, and when the driver says, man, the right front is just sliding across the track, but the left front's still dragging. Like they know what that means, and they know what to change it because they've felt it with their own two hands and have went there and changed the toe to fix it. Like they've been there. They know what that is. And Rodney was a heck of a wheelman. I don't know much about Gabehart, but Rodney definitely was really good back in his day. And same thing, came from go-karting roots. I mean, DNQ builds the best.
There's no doubt about that. I know those guys. If they didn't have the non-compete clauses in their multi-million-dollar contracts, we would see many more NASCAR drivers in the DNQ series. I know that for a fact. But you're talking about that 2-horse race at the front with Denny and Harvick, and Keselowski's second in the points right now. I don't want to call him a pretender because he's won a bunch, right? But I don't think he's shown the strength week in and week out that Harvick has. But even with this weird season we're having, you still see all the good teams and all the fast drivers still at the top pushing them. You have a Blaney who's a surprise. I thought he'd struggle more this year than he has. You got your Chase Elliott guys, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Truex, Amarola, Busch, all the fast guys at all the top teams are still filling out that front, the front of the point sheet. So practice, no practice. I know some people are complaining about no practice, but it's the cream's still risen to the top,
Yeah, and I think some of the other guys are trying to catch up, and that's where we found out the spoiler deal at Roush, which is, I mean, that's played out. I That's been done, been caught, and been penalized. So why would you go and do that again? I don't understand that. They put the things on your spoiler at the Hawkeye. I mean, they do an Xfinity. I don't know about Cup. I'm sure they do, but like why would you do that right now? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, it was only like what 2 years ago when Stuart Haas got caught, and like it was, if I remember, it was like in a chase race, like at the end of the year, like getting ready to decide if you're going to Homestead or not, and get caught with one of those things and thrown out, and got the win taken away and fine and all that stuff. Like it, their memories are so short. Like, why would you, especially at this point of the year, like it's the middle part of the year where it doesn't even matter. Why would you even try that?
I don't have a good excuse. I want to say it's idiotic, but then again, millions of dollars aren't on the line for me. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is, but like you guys touched on it. It's in everyone's recent memory. They know to look for it. You're not reinventing the wheel or doing something slick. You know what I mean? I don't know what drove them to do it, but it was obviously the wrong move.
I mean, like I can somewhat understand it. Like if it's for a championship, I'm sure when it comes championship time in DNQ, we're gonna have to attack a whole lot harder. But I mean, the middle of the year, like what we're halfway through this season. You're 26th in points. I mean, what do you have to gain? I don't know. It's just silly.
Yeah, and another one that actually got caught and did not get charged was the Mario Gosselin car with Alex Labbe. They appealed the fine and won. So I don't know what happened there. I don't agree with it. They brought a full-blown race car that you would race to the racetrack, but you have a different outlook on that, Bill.
I mean, since we originally brought this topic up, a little bit more information's kind of come out. And to some extent, I can see it. It sounds like they or the driver got permission from NASCAR to run the SCCA race, which isn't exactly the same track. It doesn't have that same chicane as what we're going to be seeing on the racetrack this coming weekend. But it was an Xfinity car. I don't think it had data. I'm not sure that information hasn't come out, but all right. So you don't have any data systems. You're not gaining anything there. But the pictures have shown like it's got Goodyear tires on it. It's an Xfinity car. Like, I don't know. It's about as close as you can possibly get to a test, so if they got permission and they went and did it, like good for them. Like everybody else had that opportunity also and didn't take advantage of it. But, looking from the outside in, I mean, that was kind of a little bit too close, like, especially since everybody talked about, all right, nobody's going to go and get laps or anything like that before this weekend. So if he wanted to go run the SCCA race, like, and just get laps around the track, like, go get a freaking Mazda Miata or something stupid like that. Like, go rent somebody else's car and not take the chance, because I mean that if they wouldn't have won that appeal, like that shuts down the whole team.
If they covered their ass the right way, they didn't do anything wrong. If they got permission in writing from NASCAR to say, it's fine, it's a non-sanctioned race, different rule set, whatever, then they're fine. But again, that's if I'm on their team. If I am one of their competitors, then I'm racing, for position against. I'm racing for money. I'm flipping livid right now because number one, I didn't think of it, but number two, like you mentioned, Bill, they clearly had the same tires on the race car. It's as close to a test as you can get without calling it a test, like you said. But again, if they got it in writing saying they can do it, and NASCAR was dumb enough to okay it, then it's fair. Fair is fair. They should have won the appeal.
Yeah, I mean, props for them for doing it, because I mean everybody knows in NASCAR that testing is illegal, but they found a way to do it, and that's just being a good racer. So good on them.
Do you think that's a one and done thing? NASCAR is going to put out some sort of bulletin tomorrow saying, all right, guys, you ruined it. We're not doing this anymore. Stop the bullshit.
There's definitely a little bit of smoke and mirrors on both ends to this thing, but we'll just leave it at that. And the last topic we're going to cover for the night is the choose cone. We've had that in DNQ for so long, but I think they've definitely made the correct decision by doing this, because there's been races where the driver complains about a line or it's really bad. I think this was like the best thing that they could do.
Yeah, I mean, it took no effort besides watching a couple DNQ races to decide that this was the right thing to do. I mean, we've seen in DNQ, race winners come from making good choose cone choices. And some of my favorite races are watching the guy from fourth drive up to the outside of the front row on the oval, where the track is a little bit black on the top, but you got that angel dust right there, and just watching them hanging out and beat some momentum right around the leader and take the lead. I mean, that's some of the best racing that we've seen. And I think, watching a couple races at Michigan this weekend or this last weekend, I mean, we saw the same thing there where, the outside lane was the preferred lane for sure. So the top four would go up there and fifth place would dive down to the bottom and start on the inside of the front row. And it seemed like for at least one corner, when your tire pressures were low enough, you could haul it off in there and get up in front and get some clean air and hold the lead for a little while and gain a bunch of spots. And I mean, we saw what Bubba Wallace did it a couple of times coming from, I mean, he made it from like 20th to 8th in like a matter of 2 or 3 restarts, by choosing the other lane. So it made it exciting. It was different strategy all around. It made the drivers really think. Like, some drivers like Clint Boyer were really bad at it. So, it definitely put a whole nother element. And I mean, as a fan, like, I loved watching it. I'm granted a little bit biased towards DNQ. But, the excitement that we've seen from the DNQ series definitely, made its way over to the other series and showed the same excitement. And I'm excited. I'm pumped to see it go the rest of the year. And they're not doing it for the road course and the speedways, and why the hell not?
I don't know. I mean, big ups to NASCAR for changing it up and doing something that actually impacts the competition. Because we've seen it. You go on Twitter, you go on your Facebooks, and you read through all the comments, and everyone's like, man, the racing's kind of slow. There's been a bunch of races this year where late race cautions created some good finishes, but the choose cone that adds that extra layer to it. Bill, you touched on it, the strategy call. Now that you're out front and you wanted to protect that lead because the track position was so important and passing was so hard. Well, now if some guy can go back and get the 8th, 9th, 10th place race car can get 2 tires or 4 tires and then get back up to 4th place instead of 8th, 9th, or 10th. Well, that puts a whole new, different outlook and a different pressure on the guy that's leading the race, and it forces a whole bunch of different strategy calls. So I think it was good for the sport. I hope they don't treat it as a temporary thing. I hope they keep it permanently and try to bring the NASCAR Cup Series up to where DNQ is.
Yeah, I watched that truck race. Was terrible, by the way. It was horrendous. Like the last couple laps, that it was really bad. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's a limit. I mean, we haven't really seen Xfinity do that yet, but maybe that just needs to stay in the Cup Series. I don't know that for sure. I did watch Johnny Sauter step on his pecker there at the end of the truck race. He's trying to make it into the chase, so I understand. But the teammate deal, that had to have been tough.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a shortage of NDFs in the truck series, so we can't forget about that. They got a tough enough time just making it around under green.
Been so bad. They have wrecked so much stuff in the truck series in the last couple races.
Yeah, I mean, but what I think it really did was it made the racing more exciting and better and cost $0.
That's
Yes.
true. That is true. That is the best thing they've done, and not cause guys anything as far as money is concerned. That's all I got for topics. Anybody else want to cover anything, Jay-Z?
The Rona has had a big impact on everything, and stick and ball sports have had a dramatic impact. Racing, not so much. I wanted to ask you two guys, do you think the 2020 champion for NASCAR, for any of the racing series for that matter of fact, should have an asterisk next to their name, or what I think is they should be celebrated even more than normal because there's no practice. They were running 2-3 races a week at one point. It's a whole different animal. It puts even more strain, more stress, and taxes your talent even more than normal, in my opinion. I think the 2020 Cup champion should get an even bigger trophy and a bigger paycheck than normal. What do you guys think?
I think this is a harder championship to win. It may be less work, but it is a harder championship to win because you're using all your tools. Your team has to be sound. Your team has to have everything right. The car has to be right when it leaves for the racetrack. I really think this championship be won in the shop, but I think it's harder to win. But I mean, I think it's the same level of competition no matter what happens. But I still think that this was definitely a tougher one to win when you look back at it. I
Yeah,
got
Bob. I mean,
we recommend NASCAR to what they're doing because we are like the only sport right now that is still going. So they have done such a good job at making sure that we are racing because we wouldn't have livelihoods if it wasn't for that. But they have done such a good job at just doing the protocols, doing everything, and making sure we're out there racing.
yeah, for sure. And some of the other sports have to have like bubbles with all of the players in it, and NASCAR has been successful without that, and they're the only ones that have been successful without that. So, yeah, definitely big props to them. But I agree with your statement about it's harder to win this year, but I think what makes it different is it was unplanned. Whereas if they would have come out before the beginning of the year and said, all right, we're not going to have any practice qualifying. This is how we're going to do things. This is what the rules are going to be like. You're only going to be allowed 4 people at the track, all that stuff. And everybody knew that before the year started. We would just look at it as a rule change, and nobody would think any different of the series champion winner. Every year it seems like they change the car completely, whether it's aero rules or engine rules or what have you. It's been a completely different racing series or race every single year. So I don't think the champion needs an asterisk by it. But I would agree with you, since it was so unplanned, it was harder for teams um, to get ahead and figure out how to win races before the season started.
As a casual fan watching and you pick your favorite driver, you think you're just romanticize how important and big the driver is. But Bob, you mentioned that the races are won in the shop before you leave. And you guys, for the first half of this restart of the season, you guys were turning around cars every 24 hours and putting them back on the road. It was crazy. You barely had time to open up, teams barely had time to open up a notebook and see what, parts to put on the race cars. It's crazy. I think the unsung heroes are those guys at the shop that are, hanging the bodies, that are putting in the front end of the race car, putting in the rear end of the race car, even the interior guys, high fives all around because they've been busting their ass all season so far, way more than usual, it seems like.
Yeah, the beginning of the year you saw Hendrick was so dominant. So they have very good staff. They have some of the best stuff ever. But I think when all this happened and they took the crew chiefs away from the shop and the engineers away from the shop and all the other guys away from the shop, they started to lose a little bit of the edge. And I think now that their guys are back in the shop working, it's going to be good, but they're going to be behind 2 months now because all the other teams kind of had their crew chiefs and car chiefs back at the racetrack. And I think that's where you're starting to see them slip a little bit. They started out of the gate really well. And I think now you're starting to see the effects of that. It's starting to hurt them a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, communication is definitely key. And the teams that work really well together, I think you're starting to see it. I mean, we all know that Rodney Childers and that Ford team, they've been together for almost 6 years now, and I don't think they've lost one person, or maybe it's low single digits, which is rare in racing. And they work so well together to begin with, and they're kicking everybody's butt. I mean, it definitely shows everybody knows their role, and the communication is good within that team, but maybe teams like, I don't know, the 18 car, I don't know, maybe Adam Stevens kind of did a lot himself, and there wasn't as much on everybody else, where he was kind of a one-man leader and didn't lean on his people so much. where they're suffering now because he can't be there nitpicking every detail with that car. And body language is a lot too. And maybe Kyle not being in those meetings coming across differently, when it's a Zoom call or something like that, where they take him saying one thing but not seeing his body language or his attitude, taking that the right way and making the right changes. I mean, it's all that part's, I'm sure, been much more difficult this year.
Yeah, that's one thing that we'll see how it plays. It's definitely interesting to watch how this season's gone, and I'm sure when we get down to the playoff deal, it's going to get even better. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of fighting and a lot of cheating and a lot of other things that go on, especially in DNQ too. But that's it for this first episode of this DNQ podcast. I want to thank you guys for joining us and all of our guests, and definitely our sponsors for the season in DNQ, Ghostface Brewing. Check them out in downtown Mooresville. They have the beer lab. You can get some beer, wine, and some whiskey too. They've got all kinds of stuff down there to check out. Pink Magic Tire Prep, Filthy Mechanic Clothing. Go to filthymechanicClothing.co to get a DNQ shirt and check out the rest of their line of their clothes. And Lead to Real Estate, always a great partner of the DNQ Karting Series, along with Tar Heel Racing Supplies and Hoosier Tires. Guys, thank you for joining us in this first deal. Thanks for our guests, and I look forward to doing this once a month.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to haul my Carroll Tractor trailer repair motorhome right on down there and probably get some wings with Hunter Weaver.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. And maybe some people listen to this while they're at work and they're not going to be listening to their management. So we'll see you guys later. And thank you very much.
Yeah. See you next week.
All right. Deal.